So let me just start here briefly. Mention that I'm actually traveling to around the US, right? I'm here with Vinicius Sanger. Actually, Vinicius is not here with us, but I'm traveling around the US with Vinicius Sanger, and he's an AWS evangelist, and we are visiting Java user groups. We're going to be doing 9 events around the US in 2 weeks. So that's very interesting. We did Boston 2 days ago on Thursday, and now we are in Raleigh, actually Cary, right? We're in Cary, North Carolina. I'm gonna introduce my guest here. It's not actually he's not my guest. I'm his guest.
Okay.
Right. So I'm going to introduce him in a second, but just as a background, we are doing this trip around the U.S. and so it looks like it's working. There's a few people watching us. So if you can see us, if you can hear us, say hello in the chat. Let me see if I can remove this thing here. Can I pop it out? No, I don't know.
It should be possible.
Yeah, it should be possible. Yeah, I tried here, but pop-up chat. Okay, so now I can pop up the chat so I can see the chat now. That looks good. Okay, we are on a roll here. Things looks like they're working. Okay, so if you can hear, so I can see MH. Hey, all three in the US. Yeah. So hey, MH, how you doing? Bruno, Vinicius, and Edson, all in the US. That's awesome. All right, so cool. So we have the chat working. We have everything. So I think it's time for me to introduce my guest. So actually, I have the honor of being here in the house of these amazing friends. So Edson Yanaga is not only a friend, is really family, and he is receiving me in his house. Thank you so much, Edson. So with you guys, Edson Yanaga. Hey, Edson, how you doing, man?
Hey, good. Nice to see you guys. Hope you're having a great time because we're definitely going to have a great time this weekend.
Yeah.
I have one of my greatest, if not the greatest friend of all here in my house, Bruno
Oh man.
Vinicius.
Cheers. Thank
Cheers
you
to
so
that.
much.
Yeah. Vinicius also he's here. So Bruno, you've been here
I've been here before,
before,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
but Vinicius the first time. So I'm expecting to have a great time this weekend.
Yes, that's good. So, okay. So let's see if we can put both of us here on the screen. Yes. Okay, we can do this. All right, cool. Okay, so guys, we want to do this very interactive, right? So we want to do this like a mentoring here for you. Edson Yanaga is a Java champion. He is an evangelist for Google. He's working on this very important Google project, the Google Wallet. Actually, I'm using it all the time. Right?
Glad to hear it.
Just say no, right? Especially because I'm traveling so much and Google Wallet is awesome for that. So that's great. And but not only that, Edson, has working on really big companies like Red Hat and Google. So he has a lot of experience. And Edson, many people don't remember this anymore because time flies, right? But Edson was the guy that's helped me start the career track at the developers conference, right? So we're the first ones that did a career track. And so, I'm very thankful for all the work that Edson has done helping people develop their careers. So guys, it's a good chance for you to ask anything that you want to know. Let's just make this open conversation, right? So I can start one question, right?
Please.
You've gone. Actually, we have some good news. I'm not going to say this good news because that's Edson and his family's good news. So, but Edson is following along. Other people that are actually going through interviews on Google and being hired at Google. So Edson, that's a question we get a lot. How hard it is to do interviews for Google, and you actually did for Red Hat, for example, and how that process works, right? So is the big companies, is that like a very hard process? Do they consider everything that you did and being visible like you are? Does that help in any way? Can you tell us a little bit about this interview process?
No, for sure it helps. And thinking about you said like being visible, and after all, I think when we were together actually when I got a call from Red Hat,
Yes.
yeah, from my previous manager Bert. We were together at Java One, and then I received a phone call, and we started a conversation saying, "Oh, actually, we have an open role, and somebody like made a referral for you, so that's why we're talking. I'd like to check your work if you're interested in the job," which was a new position in a new team for the developer advocacy team for Red Hat. And to be honest, of course I was super excited for the opportunity, especially because I was looking for a job at the time. But I was also kind of concerned because, well, I didn't have experience in the role. I was doing a lot of community stuff, delivering talks and traveling, talking to people, helping people as a personal matter, but not in a professional role. And and when Burr mentioned that he was also considering other three candidates, and all of them were Americans, and it was for a US-based role. Was supposed to work here with the team. I became even more concerned because, well, I was competing with Americans. Like English is their first language. Language is not a barrier for them, so much easier. And when I got, and I did many interviews. I talked to them. I had 12 interviews in a
Oh,
matter
yeah.
of like 4 months. So, and sometimes there was a 2 week break between the interviews. So I would have like radio silence. Nobody would reach out to me. So, okay, didn't work. But then somebody would call, "Oh, can we schedule an interview for tomorrow?" Okay, okay, sure. And I was very happy when on December 23rd, when Burr called me and he told me, "I chose you."
Cool.
So it was a great Christmas gift. But then he told me that, "Oh, but I need you to start working here in the US on January 1st." Okay, I don't think it's that easy for a Brazilian to move and work in the US in a matter of 1 week, but let's see. But that's another long story. But I think one of the things that resonated with me is that he told me that everybody that he talked to was concerned about me as a Brazilian. How would I perform with my English? Because I was supposed to be a public speaker, writing content, delivering content, giving talks in English.
Yeah, because the English is important, right? But especially in this role, because your communication was a big thing for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So everybody was concerned about that, but Bert told me that he was convinced I was the right person for the role because he spent like weeks or maybe months reading and watching every single piece of content he found from me on YouTube and blogs and articles and magazines. And luckily for me, I had plenty of content. And he was convinced that the language would be a barrier for me to perform well in this role. So I said, like, technically, okay, he knows how to do the job. English was a concern, but he was convinced, well, I've seen enough videos of him speaking. I've seen enough blog posts and articles from him that I'm convinced he can do a good job. And I was hired, and I was very happy working for Red Hat for 6+ years.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's how it started, and that's why the visibility. Like, I could even be good. I could even be like have a good English. I could write well, speak well, but if I didn't have this online record, this online track of things that I did in the past, I wouldn't have got the role, and my life would be completely different today for sure.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, cool. So And yes, I think that especially for this roles, there's a lot of communications, everything. People seeing you, right? Even when you submit a talk to an event, if you have a previous talk, you have some content, the content committee can see what you did. Because communication you have to show, right? You can just say, "Oh, I have this experience," is not enough, right? You really have to show. That's awesome, man. So I see Jefferson there. Hey, Jefferson, how you doing? MH is actually Massa, right? So hey, Massa, how you doing? Right. So Massa is a guy. He actually lives. Remember when you visit me, my apartments in São Paulo? Before I moved to the house, I had an apartment. So Massa lives very close to the apartment.
Okay.
Yes. So we live very close together for many years before we actually met. So that's great to see Massa here. And he talks a lot about you, by the way, right? So that's great. And I think he was working for Pedro. Cool. All right. So guys, I can ask lots of questions here for Edson, but how about you guys? Do you have any questions that you want to discuss here? Anything about your career? Anything about what's going on? So one of the things that I did, Edson, on 2 days ago, I presented the Boston JavaScript group, and we talk about the reputation formula, right? So the 10 steps that you need to do to get a big reputation. And you got the job from Red Hat, you got the job from Google, all based on your reputation, right? So can you tell us a few things that you do to work on your reputation, to improve your reputation, to get people to see you? Now it's your job, right? But even before, right?
That's interesting because reputation is something that you need to earn. And in the beginning, you have nothing. And I was even early in my career, I always thought that and a lot of people that know me for quite some time know that I can be quite blunt, maybe too honest sometimes. But I also thought that in everything that I did, I always thought that if you do a job either as a consultant or as an employee, you always do things so you can leave the place you work from the front door, and you, whenever you go, whatever you do, always make people miss you. So, oh God, I miss him. I wish he was still here working with us. Oh, it was so great the time that we worked together. So that's the kind of impression I always want to leave, like wherever I go. And actually I was having this conversation because at Google we have a very interesting coaching and sponsoring program. And I was talking to my coach, and because right now I'm approaching the 2-year mark at Google. Now I could be looking at other roles and not different from what I'm doing. Not even my role in different organizations. I could be looking at other roles, like in other organizations as well. And he asked me, like, what is your career plan? What do you want to do? Like, do you want to switch roles? Do you want to change jobs, work with something else? And I told him that working with what I'm currently working is it's very nice, very interesting. I love the team that I'm working with. But of course, I'm always looking for the next challenge. Right now, for example, is the first time I'm working with a consumer product. I've always worked with the developer tools and or cloud computing, very different, which is a developer tool too. And now it's a consumer, and I don't know what will be my next challenge. We had this conversation before. I don't like talking about my plans because everything I ever planned in my life, in my career, everything went wrong. But somehow other things went right. So that's why I'm here where I am today. But when my coach asked me, well, what do you want to do next? I don't know what I want to do next. I know I want to do something bigger, but I don't want to leave it now. Because he asked, why is that? because I don't think I did something meaningful enough in my current role for you to miss me. So, I said I still need to land something big. So people that come after me, when people come here, said, "Well, oh, who did this? Well, Edson did this. Well, it was amazing. We miss him." So that's some of the things that I always try to do in my career, and I think maybe it worked a bit. Maybe it's working.
Yeah.
Maybe it's working. So I'm not a good planner. I like to do stuff, but in everything that I put in my path, I always try to do as well. Am I going to be remember about it? Like, and even when the times are bad, because sometimes it's just things go wrong. Sometimes the situation is bad after all. You have ups and downs in everything that you do. And even when someone disappoints me or a situation disappoints me, when I'm talking to people or when I'm trying to do like a retrospective of what went well, what went wrong, whenever I try to leave a message, or even like when somebody fails or disappoints me and I have to do some kind of feedback, saying, is this person going to remember me because I helped him or her, because it was just the asshole in the room and I needed to vent it to someone. So I always have this thing in mind. Am I going to be remembered for a good thing? So, and that's how I try to shape my career.
That's very cool. That's very cool. It's interesting. It's interesting what you said about people remembering you, because it's not exactly like you do it, like you're talking about. But I've many years I read a book called Illusions from Richard Bach. I'm not sure if you read that book, right?
Not yet.
It's like a fiction book, right? It's a story of a messiah that have given up.
Okay.
Right? He said, "Oh no, messiahs they get killed, so I don't want to get killed, so I'm gonna give it up." And so he travels around the U.S. in an airplane. And so he meet this guy, and he tells the guy, "Yeah, I was a messiah, but I gave up." And then he says that he has the Messiah book, right? And the book has all kinds of explanations, right? So that's the story. It's like it's a fiction, it's a nice story. But the one thing that on this Messiah book, it has lots of phrases, right? And one phrase that always stuck to my mind, it says something like this: live as live as if as never to regret if anything that you say or you do gets published, even if what gets published is false. And I think it's similar to what you're talking about, right? Because is this idea that the things that you do have an impact, and then people talk about it, and then people remember you, right? Either of course in the Illusions book is worldwide, but you're talking about your job, right? And I think this is so true, guys, because our job, the biggest impact that we have in our job is the relationship that we have with other people. I mean, I know, of course, we can write software that can impact lots of lives and everything, but those are going to be, people just going to remember the software they're using, right? Not you, right? But the impact that you have is on the people, right? Is on the team. So if you are a good influence to your team, the team performs better, they create a better software, they impact more people's lives, right? And so I really like this idea of, having people remember you.
Yeah, and for you to be remembered, that's also something that I'm working on, because I had this feedback from my previous manager, from my current one too, that even though I do a good job, I'm very bad in publicizing it internally. And my previous manager used to say, "Well, people outside the company know you. People inside the company don't know what you do."
Right.
So, and it's very, very important for your career progression, for you to be able to be noticed by senior management, by people from your team and other teams, from your direct line of reporting, and from other areas as well. So that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to publicize more, and not just like as a bragging thing.
Mhm.
Because when you brag about something, this guy, well, you know the
Yeah,
feeling.
right, yes,
You know
exactly.
the feeling.
Uh-huh.
But just how you're able to help you and other people inside your organization to achieve their goals. And actually, the ultimate recognition is when you're able to do a good job
Mhm.
and you're able to help other people in other areas to achieve their goals.
Mhm.
So I'm achieving my goal and I'm helping other people achieve their goals. And that's the kind of ultimate praise, because when they publicize it, then it's much better than you talking about yourself.
Right.
And that's why every year when we have the planning, I always reach out to the people I know and say, can you share with me your OKRs or your goals for the
Mhm.
year
Mhm.
and see how can I fit so we can help each other.
That's nice.
Yes.
That's nice.
That's something that I try to do.
That's a great idea, right? So you understand one of the things that developers have a lot of problems with is this whole notion of understanding how the company makes money, what is important for their boss. I mean, many developers don't even know what's important for their bosses, right? Not even to say, they just think that the focus is only on the code, but actually knowing what everyone around you, what's their goals, what their objectives, can really help you create those relationships. That's awesome. That's great. So I see Silvio here. Hey, Silvio. So guys, go ahead and send us questions. People that are here with me on Zoom, you can raise your hand and just speak, right? People that are they're watching us from YouTube, you can send questions here on the chat. So let me go for the question from Massa, right? Because Massa has a question for you, Edson, and he says, "Hey, Edson, I understand that your challenge currently is to push adoption of Google Wallet, right? Can you tell that's the end? That's the end. You said you have a end user application, right? That's the Google Wallet, right? And so, can you tell us details on what has been one of the possible barriers you have found so far? So, what is your challenge right now in terms of adoption, in terms of doing the work?
Yeah, I could talk a lot of time about the overall DevRel strategy, what you need to do. But and depending on the phase of the product lifecycle, you have different strategies. But as you mentioned, Google Wallet is a new product. Actually, is less than 2 years old, because I was hired for the launch. So next May 11th, Google Wallet will be 2 years old. And the main problem right now is that even though very likely if you have an Android phone, you already know and you might be using Google Wallet, do you know what features what are the features that Google Wallet has that you as a developer can use? You probably wouldn't be able to list them to me. So we are in the awareness phase problem. So what I'm working right now is to help developers worldwide to become aware that, well, there is a Google Wallet API, and there is a lot of features. There are a lot of features that you can use to enhance like your interaction with your customers through Google Wallet. So, and most people know Google Wallet because, oh, I can put my credit card, my debit card, or you can use Pix in Brazil to make payments. Well, that's the thing that all digital wallets can do. But we can do more. You can, for example, put loyalty cards, and you can use Google Wallet as a way for you to interact with your users. Like if you have a coffee shop, you have a loyalty program, and every 10 coffees you get one free cappuccino or one free croissant or something. And maybe you can be notified, oh, we already have 5 coffees. Come back here, or today we have a special promotion. You can buy 2 coffees for the price of one. And or say, oh, you're close to your next free coffee, or next Monday your coffee is on us. So this kind of loyalty cards, or you can send.
So you can actually send those push notifications for people.
You can send notifications.
I mean, you can send notification because I use Google Wallet and it tells me that the gates changed or the
True, for boarding passes,
pass,
for
yes.
boarding passes, we have this kind of
Right,
notifications.
yes.
But before I answered the previous question, I was thinking if loyalty cards, if they do have this type of notification, but if they don't, well, Google I/O is the biggest Google event of the year,
Mhm.
and maybe there might be some good announcements in May.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So
I can say yes or no. Okay.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Okay.
You can do a lot of stuff. You can add car keys. You can add like corporate badges.
Interesting.
Also in Google Wallet, you can add boarding passes,
Mhm.
event tickets, or you can do. That's what we sponsored a challenge with the Flutter team,
Mhm.
the Global Gamers Challenge, and I'm judging the projects right now. And one of the things that I was interested into is that maybe you could use your camera and use some AR or use stamp some QR codes so you can redeem some interesting things like in store and convert that to a Google Wallet pass that people could use it at checkout.
Mhm.
So and we have an API called the Generic Pass API where you have the flexibility to customize almost everything that you add as an asset in Google Wallet. So there's no limits to what you can do. There are no limits in what you can digitize into Google Wallet. You only need to imagine what you want to do.
Mhm. That's very interesting. I'm not sure if you know that. I'm not sure if we ever talked about this, but one of the very first projects that I participated was Java wallets. Right. So Java had there's a great team that was building the Java e-commerce API, and we have Java cards, and Java card was one of the pieces of the Java Commerce API. And so I was actually participating with the team. We're implementing in a big bank in Brazil. We're implementing the Java card, but of course, that time there's no cell phones. It was everything desktop based. And it's really hard. The same challenge that you have right now of showing people what you use this for, right? Imagine that time there was a desktop app, right? It was even more complicated because then we're not actually showing. One of the things that we were doing that time, and actually we actually had that running. It was a home banking application. So the wallet, guys, is so sophisticated because the interface is very simple. It's just a card, but it's your code that's running there, right? So I mean, there's lots of things that you can do, and so that's what we're doing at the time. That you would select the card of the bank, and there's a whole interface for the home banking application that people can just use and access, right? So that's pretty cool. All right, so Java wallet. Whoa, I didn't know that. Says Master. Yes, that's great. It's an awesome. It was an awesome. I learned a lot on that project, right? Because it was a desktop application with lots of security features and a completely different interface because because that's probably what you have to do. You have to connect to the interface, right? So it's like a desktop application or mobile application that you actually don't write the application because you connect to an existing API. So Pedro has his hand up here. So go ahead, Pedro.
Hey, hello, Bruno. Hello, Edson. Oh, nice to be here. I have a question. Not I have two things to say. One say that I used Google Wallet to put my COVID vaccines in there, and then I was in US like 2022, and when I got there, they to come back, and they asked me, "Oh, do you have the COVID vaccine?" And I showed my Google Wallet with my code of COVID vaccine, and they just click it and say, "Yeah, okay, you're good." So
That's nice. Yeah, because
it was awesome.
you can add like QR codes and pages and this yourself. You don't even have to have a to
No,
develop.
no, but the vaccine, the app, the Brazilian vaccines application, we could like take the vaccine and just up share it in the Google Wallet.
Okay, I
and
see. Cool.
and I said, okay, why I would do that? And then I did, and I could use that in a airport in the US. It was, for me, it was amazing.
That's
So
nice.
yeah,
So
one
Edson, Pedro is working with helping developers to do what you're doing, right? So have an international career, right? So he's actually have an international career. He works for a company in Canada. He's moving to Canada now, right? And so now that's why he's helping other developers to actually do the same kind of thing. Go ahead, Pedro.
Yeah, and that was one of my question here, because I'm moving to Canada like this in this next months, and I'm thinking about exactly about this difference between working in a company in a different country. You know, you said, oh, I should move. I had to move to US and work from there, and all these difficulties. And well, I've been working here from Brazil. I've been working remotely, so I know people, but now I will be there. So it look. I want to know if it's how it was for you, or do you have any tips to me to get there and is to be growing in the career?
Good. Well, first, congratulations
Thank you.
on your move. I'm sure it's going to be a great experience. But as every change in your life is going to be a challenge, especially in the first months. I believe that it took me at least 6 months here to be able to perform the way I was performing still in Brazil. And I'm not joking, like in the first month, every single day I would have headaches in the end of the day, because you not only you have to do your job, but you have to learn to live in different country.
Okay.
And I suppose it might be the same case as for you. Not only you have to do your job, you're adapting your country, even though you're talking about in English or French in Canada, whatever the language of where you're going. You're still responsible for your family as well, and they're struggling more than you are. So it's a big responsibility, and for simple things like, oh, it's just the end of the day. Oh, we need to buy groceries. Where is the nearest grocery store? Like, is that a good one? Oh, I need to put some gas in the car. Like, where is the nearest gas station? How do I deal with the gas pump? Because it's very different from Brazil. And oh, I need some medication. Like we brought from Brazil like 3 months of blood pressure medication and other stuff. But then, okay, now we need to, because once we're out of medication, we need to buy more. So we had the prescriptions from Brazil. We went to the drugstore, to the pharmacy. We tried to buy more. Like this paper is worth nothing here. Okay, can I just buy from here? Well, you can't buy without a doctor's prescription. Oh, can't I just, because in Brazil you can't, like you just go to the pharmacy, oh, I just want to buy. No, I can't sell it. And even if I could, you would be paying the full retail price, which is going to be absurdly expensive. So I remember like my blood pressure medication when I left Brazil was like, it was an expensive one. It was like 100 reais for 30 days. And the same medication here in the US, if I was paying for the full retail price, would be almost $400. But if you have insurance, you pay zero. So this kind of thing. So I had to find a doctor. Oh, which doctor do I have to go? How do I book it? Which ones are covered by the insurance? So it's a lot of things to process. So first thing I'd like to say, it's going to be hard in the beginning, and also would like to say that it's hard for everyone. Like you just need to make the people from the company that you're working for to be aware that you're going to struggle until you come back to your previous performance. But after that, you'll be back to be the same. And you notice that interacting with people with different cultures. And I'm saying that because when I moved in Brazil, and especially Pedro, if you're in Brazil, the culture is kind of homogeneous. Like because in Brazil, we had a lot of immigrants in the past. Like our parents are probably immigrants, our grandparents are immigrants, but from our generation, most of us were born and raised in Brazil.
Mhm.
So we're not used to this many different cultures. And particularly here in where I live and in Canada, it's pretty much the same. You learning to deal with many different cultures and ways and adapting, and you're going to take some time. Like this thing that we Brazilians, we are close to each other. We have warm relationships between each other, even at work. And you notice well, when you deal with Americans and you have people here from the South, have people from the Northeast, people from the West Coast, they're very different from each other. They like if you go to Boston, where you were, if you enter an elevator in Boston and you say good morning, people will look weird to you. Like, what the heck? Like, what? Good morning, but why? And here, like when I go to the grocery store and you have this self-checkout options and you have the regular cashier, I always go to the self-checkouts because people in the cashier, they really want to start a conversation with you.
Mhm.
So you go there. So if you want something quick, and and there is a person in the cashier, it's going to take me like 5-10 minutes because they're going to say, and hello, how are you? And usually the lady is going to start a conversation and you don't want to be impolite. You're going to reply and it's a conversation that keeps going and you just want to leave. Like, I just wanted to buy some stuff. Like, and you're going to stay.
So from that, Edson would be the guy that looks weird at you when you say hello on the elevator, right?
Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Good morning.
No, I can't say good morning to Edson, right? So just when he's here in Brazil, right?
Yeah. So he cut a little bit for us, Pedro. We didn't understand anything you said.
Oh,
But
no, I said that. Well, just need to. I can't say good morning to Edson just when he's here in Brazil, not when he's there in the US, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah. You will learn to adapt, like because here we have Chinese, have Indian, yeah, Vietnamese,
Oh,
have
where
Europeans.
is there? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Where are you located?
right now.
Oh, we're right now I live in Cary, North Carolina, but we are in
North
the
Carolina.
Valley area, the Research Triangle.
Hmm.
So here, the two largest cities in North Carolina are Charlotte, which is the financial center here from the East Coast.
Mhm.
Raleigh is the capital, and they call it the Research Triangle because we have three big universities: UNC Chapel Hill, NC State, and Duke University. And most people know here because Michael Jordan is from here.
Okay. Yeah, I know North Carolina because Michael Jordan.
That's cool. So just so Mozia saying hello from Maringá.
Oh, hello,
Right.
Lucia.
So how is it doing? I see Domenico here. Hey, Domenico. Domenico is in Munich. So how are you doing, man? So Mozia says, I really appreciate the Java Man lives, right? Only big sacred monsters. So hello, big sacred monster. All right, that's so cool. So there's another. Evandro says, "Great meeting, Bruno and Yanaga and Vinicius." So Vinicius is very, very tired, right? So he laid down to rest, and we just decided not to wake him up, right? So sorry that he's not going to show here. All right. So who else, guys? Who else? Tell us any more questions that you have, right? So we can talk about different things and we can discuss different things. It's. Come on, Pedro. Go ahead, man. You're already on the roll here. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, another question about it, about international careers, right? Right, as I'm working with this, and there are many people that want to work remotely to US, but there are some people that want to move. So, how do you think it's the market is today, like for people who want to work remotely from Brazil? Do you think it's uh, 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 it doesn't look easier than it is like some years ago? But I don't see that it's I don't see easier to move to US as well. So for people who want to work to US, what's the best way to do right now? What do you think,
That's a
please?
good question. I think, well, the financial situation that the US increased the interest rates. So money right now is expensive, and we expect it to be for at least some years moving forward. So you have money expensive. So the startups, they have a lot of trouble securing funding. So that's why it's so hard for them to hire people in general, and of course, remotely as well. So, and that's a situation that is not going to change so soon.
Mhm.
And but if for people that, so it's hard for me to say something about the situation for people from in Brazil trying to work for the US, because it has been almost 7 years that I left. So I don't know exactly how's the situation besides what people report to me.
Right.
So, but what I can say is that probably the easiest way for you to be in Brazil, to be able to move, for example, to the US to work here, is to work for a company that is based in the US, but also has an office in Brazil. Because once you're employed in the Brazilian office for at least 1 year, if the company wants to, they can do an internal transfer for you. That's how I moved here. I worked 1 year at Red Hat Brazil until they were able to transfer me. So they gave me literally an internal transferee visa. So I was doing the same role, but I moved here to the US. So, and when they do that, the company sponsors the visa. Usually they sponsor the relocation as well. And they're responsible for you while you're here in the US, which means that for any reason, like they fire you or you want to leave your job, it's their responsibility to move you back to your home country. So that's probably the easiest way. Another way is also for you to enter the H-1B lottery, but it's a lottery. Yeah, it can take years for you to get a visa. So that's why I say the easiest way is probably for you to be an internal transferee, and be aware that these companies, they know that a lot of people want to move to the US. So, and because they know that, that's also another way for them to, when you're transferred, you're going to have a salary probably lower than the one that are offered here for people that are local. Because, well, the company is paying for the visa, for the transfer, and they want to get the return of investment for some years until, well, you can stay up, depending on the type of visa, you can stay up to 5 or 7 years on this work visa, the internal transferee visa. And in the meantime, you should be able to get a green card sponsored by the company. But in those 5 or 7 years, well, you're going to be somewhat cheaper labor. That's a fact. And I tell you that because the day I got my green card, like the week later, actually 2 weeks before I got my green card, my manager gave me a raise, the biggest raise I had in 5 years. My raise was like he gave my salary increased by 35%. 2 weeks before my green card. And why do they do that? Because they don't want you to get the green card and immediately quit the job. So, which means like, yeah, you could be earning more. Could be earning more. That's the situation, but that's probably the easiest path for you to be able to move and work here.
Got it. Thank you.
That's cool. Silvio has his hand up. Go ahead, Silvio.
Hey guys, hey Edson, good to see you again. Just a comment on this answer, right? There is a new way now, which is called the H1B visa, not the H1B, EB2 special conditions, whatever. I think it's established in 2016, so it's recently created, and it's a that's that and
EB2, right? Yeah.
EB2 is old. I came to US EB2 25 years ago. EB2 is old. It's this new type of EB2 without a sponsor.
Okay.
And you can, you as soon as you get it, then you have absolute freedom to work for anybody, which is not the case when I came here, right? So this is new, and actually people that are in this program trying to get visibility, making a name for themselves in having a portfolio of impacting things to show. That's actually one of the reasons for one of the requirements to have that visa approved, right? It's a new thing. I don't know much about it, but I know that if you can get it, it's extremely interesting because you don't have any sponsor. You have all the freedom to work to whoever you want, right?
Yeah, I don't know because Red Hat sponsored my visa, but Pedro has mentioned here the new EB2 is the EB2, the National No Interest Waiver, and that's the one that I've applied for. But Red Hat sponsored it anyway because this was the fastest path to get it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Pedro's talking about here, he's saying that some people are asking like $15,000 to do that for you. That's about how much Vinicius was telling me, about 12 months paying 1,500. And so and Edson was about 30,000 that you heard, right?
Yeah, when I applied for the EB2, the company, the lawyer asked 25K.
Okay, 25K
from Red Hat.
All right, yeah. So it's expensive, but it's a possibility, right, guys? So one thing that Edson mentioned here that I just want to touch on really quick is that he talks about we don't have the zero interest rates anymore. I think we had a discussion about this the other day. Also, so the one thing that's startups are having a hard time to get money, that's for sure. The layoffs also are being impacted by that, right? So there's more layoffs because there's less money in the market. So every time there is less money to invest, and it's harder for companies to get money, then things are harder, right? In terms of hiring people, all that. But the one thing that could be interesting is for people that have lots of experience, right? So people that have experience that are visible, that have specific knowledge that the companies need, right? So those people can still find their place, right? So, but it's harder, guys. You have to understand that the last money that is in the market. So there's two things going on right now that are important. One is that the interest rates are not zero anymore, right? Especially in the US. But the second thing that's going on is that the baby boomers is the largest generation. Yes, the largest generation in U.S. history, right? It was the baby boomers. So the kids were born after the war, and so they were the ones that when they went to start working and they were consuming lots of things, they really created like a big boom in terms of the market here in the U.S. But now that the baby boomers are retiring, right? So I mean, the last baby boomers are 60, 70 years old. So they're retiring right now. So the moment that they retire, all that money that they accumulated, that they were using to invest, are turned into more stable things, right? So they want to travel, they want to not consume so much.
That's interesting, because when you look at the jobs report here in the US,
Mhm.
like you said, oh, they're creating a lot of new jobs.
Mhm.
But if you look at the charts, you see that the vast majority of the jobs are for hospitality and leisure
Mhm.
and healthcare.
Right.
So
Yeah.
very few jobs are being added in manufacturing or technology, or the ones that we're looking for.
Exactly, because the largest generation is retiring, right?
Mhm.
So that is also, because one of the places that you work at is Japan, right? And Japan is also going through the same issue, right? So Japan is the oldest country in the world in terms of the age of their population right now, and so and Japan has the same thing. There's a lot of opportunities in healthcare, in relationship, right? Taking care of old people, for example, all of that, and because of the same reasons, right? So,
Yeah, in Japan, you can even rent dogs to make your company.
oh,
Or
man.
lonely, rent a dog.
Okay. All right. Okay, so Domenico, go ahead, man.
Okay, thank you, Bruno. Hi, Edson. I have a question, but I have a contribution as well. Pedro, I'm relocated and based in Germany since 2022, and I think for Europe, it's easier to relocate, even though it's becoming difficult because of the crisis after the pandemic. It's still a lot of vacancies and opportunities, and Germany is the biggest market, right? UK is not in EU anymore. Then it's a place to take a look. Or Netherlands. I mean, I never took a look on Portugal because salary is not good there. But besides that, I think Netherlands and the north of Europe and Germany are really interesting. And if you take a look, I think maybe Switzerland pay salaries like US like, but it's really cost living there is really expensive. But it's a place that you earn a lot of money, but you don't have a lot of options as well. But you can try, and it doesn't matter if you are EU citizenship or not. Of course, if you are, it's easier to relocate to there, but it's not necessarily. They are looking for the whole world because they need people there.
And Germany, you mentioned an interesting place, right? So Germany
Yeah.
has a problem that their population is also aging up, right?
Yeah.
So Germany is needing younger people, right? That can come and then they can do the work, right? So it's I'm not sure how open they are for immigration, but I think they're pretty open for immigration.
Yeah, I
Right?
mean, Berlin are really, really open, I would
Mhm.
say, Bruno, and Munich, yeah. These two cities and maybe Hamburg as well in the
Okay.
north, they are really open and international. But
Yeah.
the more international should be Berlin and Amsterdam in Europe,
Cool.
I would say.
Yeah.
And my question to Edson, that's why I raised my hand here. It's
Mhm.
because I have this curiosity because you make a transition that a lot of software engineers and developer in general want to do is not only moving to US but moving to Google, right? How was that? How was the challenge? How was the invitation? If you can talk a bit for us, because could be something that we can learn from you for sure.
That's interesting, Edson, because that's the first question I started, right? But you answer Red Hat. You didn't answer Google. So that's great that Domenico is asking about Google, because then you can tell us a little bit about Google.
Thank you.
Ever since the 2000s, I always dreamt about working for Google, but living in Maringá and in the countryside of Brazil, and I didn't want to move to a big city. I never thought of it as a possibility. But after the pandemic, when remote work became something normal, and because I've applied to Google many times before, I never got like a single like email, like nobody ever replied to me. But then when it was before it was the end of the pandemic, I didn't even get my green card, but I thought that, well, will come a time when I'll be able to work for other companies, and I want to be prepared for this opportunity. So that's why I started, well, people would reach out to me, sending me emails or through LinkedIn, and I stopped declining those interviews. So okay, I'll start to do some interviews, and even though I knew that I would decline anyway, I started practicing, and I realized how bad I was in those interviews. So I started to do some interviews. In some of them, I even got an offer letter just to decline later. But what helped me to get this job is that shortly before, and that's another reason, this time Google reached out to me and not the opposite.
That makes a big difference.
Yeah.
That makes
So when they reach out to me, oh, would you be interested in talking about a role? And I said, well, now I'm interested. And before that, Amazon reached out to me about a role. And okay, Amazon, maybe that's something interesting. And what really helped me at Amazon is that when they signed up me for this role, because it was a senior position, they offered me a personal coach. I have somebody from HR coached me just how to answer the questions in interviews. And
that was before you got hired.
Oh, before I got into the interviews. So
that's what I'm saying. They are coaching you, even though you're not employed.
Yes.
Yeah. Interesting.
And when I asked her, oh, why is Amazon paying for this coaching? I said, they want you like to go to the interviews, and they want you to answer them properly, because they don't want you to fail because you don't know how to answer. Like they know they want you, if you fail, it's because they didn't like the answers and not how you answered.
Interesting.
So they weren't prepared. And not only that, I had 2 coaching lessons. I had 1 week of training. So many different courses. They gave me the simulation scenarios on how to answer. And I did like, I don't know, it was 5 or 6 interviews. And after the interviews, I was like, the coaching, the training sessions were great, but when I got to the actual interview, you know the feeling, like you finish the interview and I could have done better. It didn't go the way I was expecting,
Right.
and it reflected in the end. And I got to the final round, but in the end, the manager chose another person. And actually, what happened is like I was interviewing for a data science role. And when the recruiter approached me, I told her, I know nothing about data science. Like, I don't know why you're approaching me. No, we saw your role, we saw your experience. I think you can learn and you can lead the team. I say, okay, I want to have this experience, this interviewing experience. But then, well, after preparing so much for the process, actually, I was interested in the role in the end, because I had to study like to be able to participate in the process. But then 1 month later, when Google approached me and they asked me to participate in the process, when the time came for me to have those interviews, I was 100% prepared. Because when the person was asking similar questions, I said, oh man, I know how to answer this one. I know exactly what you want to listen from me. And I nailed each one of those interviews. And I was only able to do that because I failed in those interviews before. And Google was a completely different process because I was hired for a technical position. You have the famous coding interviews from Google. But to be honest, it was the hardest test I ever did in my life. I think I had to go through 5 different tests. And the funny thing is that when the recruiter approached me, and he called me and he was like, "Oh, okay. So we want to do an interview with you. Like it's going to be a code interview." And I said, "Okay." And then I need at least a month to prepare because these code interviews are famous for being super hard. And the recruiter was like, "Oh, no, no. For somebody with your experience, it's supposed to be easy. Can we schedule for tomorrow?" And it was like, well, that's completely different expectation. So, but if you say it's easy, sure, we can do it tomorrow. And when I got into the interview and the interviewer presented me the question, I was like, holy shit, like I have no idea how to solve this thing, and it's supposed to be easy. And it was like, and one of the rules of the interview is that you don't have to solve the problem. You just have to convince the interviewer that you're capable of solving the problem. And if you had more time, you would be able to solve it. So that's okay. Fake it until you make it. So I'm going to try, and I'll try to convince the person that I can do it. But what happened when I started talking about my thought process, what would I do, what I'm going to do to solve this. And like 20 minutes interview, I was just by talking about what I was thinking, I was saying, wait, I got this. I know. And I just realized, oh, I know how to do it. And I just code the answer, and that was it. I even like finished like with plenty of time to spare. And then, but that was the first one. For the next one, I need at least a week because I need to study this thing, because it's much harder than you said it was going to be. Then for the next 4 weeks, I was having one test per week. And after I passed all the technical interviews, I was able to go to the talking interviews, and that's when the Amazon training or the Amazon experience helped me a lot for me to get the job. So you have to do. I don't know how useful the code interviews are, but I don't blame the game. I'm just playing it. I don't make the rules. So if that's what I have to do, then that's what I have to do. So that one you have to study, and it's a hard problem anyway. But for the soft part, where you're talking to a person and talking about your experience, that's I'm sure that if I didn't have the experience from interviewing with Amazon, I would have failed with Google as well. So that's why and actually that's something that even though I'm not looking for a new role, I'm thinking about applying to other roles, just because I think that I'm kind of rusty. Like I was going. My son went through the interview process like recently, and while hearing to him answering the questions, I was like, I think I would stutter to answer the same questions today. And sometimes I have to shadow some hiring interviews, even at Google. And I don't have to say anything. I just have to be in the meeting. I don't even have to open the camera. I just have to be there, just to verify, to get some experience and verify that the process was fair. And even when I shadow some of the interviewers, I was like, oh my God, I wouldn't be able to answer this question. I was thinking like I would struggle to answer this question. And I see the pain when, and coincidence or not, all the interviews that I shadowed, the candidate failed. And I was sorry for the candidate. And was like, man, I know how hard this is. So, and as Bruno always says, like the best time for you to interview is when you don't want a new job.
Right.
So, because you have the time, like you don't have the pressure, can do everything. So that's why I think I'm going to start the process again, because I always want to be in shape, because you never know when the next best opportunity lands.
That's very cool. All right. So there's a question here from Mozilla. He says, I have a question about desktop applications, right, using Java. Today we can see many web apps, obviously, but I'd like to know it's still viable desktop application. I mean, that's not exactly what you guys are doing because you're doing mobile, right? But in reality, the mobile apps, right, is like their desktop application, right? In many ways, because they're sophisticated, they're the client sides, and you know, there's really not a lot of public applications, desktop applications anymore, but there's a lot of private desktop applications, right? So many companies still develop, in Java is heavily used for that. You know, applications that they're free to run internally or sometimes in custom. So actually, I had a lunch with a developer in Boston where he has a whole business around this app, right, that people download and install on a local machine, right, and to run network testing and all this kind of thing. So there's still a market for that, but usually not like public clients, you know, client, how do you say, like end user focused type of applications, more applications are used internally. Do you see something like this, that too?
Yeah. Well, desktop applications, not only Java, but overall, are kind of a niche these days, and Java even more niche. But even though you don't have like consumer applications, that's consumer desktop applications, you have a lot of what we call like captive user applications. Like you develop for your employee, you develop the application for your employees. So they're captive because they don't have a choice, they have to use it. A consumer can choose to use your software or not. An employee, they can't choose. So they're captive. And here, I think NASA in the US, they use Java as desktop application. In Europe, I know that Airbus and CERN, they have Java desktop applications in JavaFX because they like the interactive way of the controls and everything. But I don't know many more, like, we're not aware at least of this like Java desktop applications anymore. It's not, as I said, it's niche. It's not mainstream.
Right. Yeah, Pedro says, not business to consumer, but business to business, right? Yes. Okay. So guys, we're in the last minutes here. So if anyone has any more questions, this is the time, right? I see many people watching us on YouTube, right? So hello everyone. Oops, I'm actually yeah. So hello everyone that you're watching us on YouTube. That's great. You know, we still have a few, just a few more minutes. Last questions. So if anyone has any other thing here that you want to discuss, please feel free to do. So Edson, one of the things that you know, you have been a person that you always looking at in terms of technology, what's going on, and I think that you are one of those guys that kind of really have like a grasp on like the broad landscape, right? So you take a look at everything that's going on. So two things, right? Like one broader question. Do you have any tips on how to do that? How to keep up with lots of things going on at the same time? And two, what are the things that you're seeing right now that should be important for developers?
But to be honest, I don't know how I do it or why I do it. I just spend a lot of time reading. And one of the things that helped me a lot is that when I was a teenager, I took a speed reading course.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And so I can read like extremely fast. That's why consuming books for me is so easy. Like if I have to read, like if I take the whole day, if you give me like a technical book, like a 500-page book, I can do that in the same day.
Pedro saying that he did that too.
Okay, so it helps. So whenever and that's another problem because whenever I dig into the internet, which has plenty of written content, it's this endless browsing. You just go, and whenever I find something that I don't know, I just Google that again. And then like that's why I think like I spend a lot of time in Wikipedia because just tries going link through link and reading everything, trying to consume that. And even Guy, my youngest son, he complains because whenever we have a conversation at dinner, for example, I say, Dad, why do you have to know everything? And when sometimes he asks a question, I just ask him back, like, do you really want to know it, or it was just a rhetorical question, like just wondering? Because I don't want to be the boring dad, like giving you how it works or this or that. Like even this week, this week in particular, I was converting here. I had an outlet here, 2 outlets, and they are 30 amps, but the voltage is 240 volts. But I wanted to put a 120 appliance there, and I was converting that into the circuit breaker box and changing the wiring, and my family was like, why are you doing that, and how do you know how to do that? And it was like, I just know. I just know because once in my office in Brazil, I was and I have a master's in electrical engineering too. So I just
All right.
it helps. It helps. It helps. So,
I don't know how I know how to do this thing I have a master's degree in. Yes. Okay. Cool.
yeah, but I have a master in telecommunications. What's supposed to be like in this part? And okay, I can change it. Don't you have to hire an electrician for doing that? No, because I know how to do it. So I did it. Well, I bought the wrong breaker, of course, and I had to go back and exchange it. But now it should be good. But it's just like if it's easy for you to consume something like with speed reading, like you're just motivated because it doesn't take a lot of time for you to read and learn other stuff. So that's what we're doing. And if I had to say something, I could use a cliche saying, oh, you should be taking a look at generative AI. Of course, I think it's going to make us much more productive. I'm becoming skeptical if it's going to be a game changer. I thought the possibility was higher. The more I learn and the more I see people using it, I think less of a game changer is going to be. I think it's going to be another tool in your set, and it's not going to change dramatically the way we do things today. It's going to be a nice to have. I'm not sure it's going to be a must have thing, but of course, you shouldn't have take the risk of not knowing it.
Right.
Yeah, it's better knowing and not using it than the opposite. So you definitely should be taking a look. And for developers, at least, I think Gen AI is going to be, we're going to fit that in the developer productivity section. And I think that a tool that, for example, reduces your build time by 30%, might be as useful as a Gen AI tool that creates some code for you, because it's going to save the same 30% of the time. On the other hand, a tool that speeds up my build by 30% won't be able to introduce bugs, unintended bugs, nor security risks as a Gen AI tool can do for you. So that's why I'm starting to become skeptical about it. I'm not sure it's going to be as useful as it.
Yeah, that's the trough of disillusion, right? So that's the.
I had to use this word in a session, the trough of disillusionment, and I spent like 2 whole days trying to pronounce it correctly. Oh, another thing that helps with the English. Like yesterday, I had to record a keynote, and I rehearsed the the script like 10 times and always paying careful attention to each one of those words. And I noticed that some of the words I was mispronouncing them. So I had to take the time to go to the dictionary and check the pronunciation so I could record it correctly later. So I don't know if it's a useful tip, but that's something that I constantly do. Whenever I have the time to think about what I'm saying, I try. And you know when you're saying something weird because you learn that after learning some languages, you know that every language has a rhythm, has a pattern of the way that the word sounds. And if you pay attention to what you're saying, you notice when it's different. And then, this doesn't sound good. Then I go check in the dictionary, and usually I'm wrong. And also, I have 2 kids that are studying English school, so I have plenty of criticisms.
That's great. That's great. So Miguel, go ahead, Miguel. I think we're getting to the end of our questions here, but come on, go ahead, Miguel.
Do you use inteligência artificial? How they see?
Okay, sometimes I use AI. I'll tell you what in the past months, this year, what helped me. I did a lot of UX interviews with developers from all over for partners, and each interview was like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half long. And then I needed to take the key outcomes, key answers, and create a report. And for me to go back to each one of those 8 interviews would take me like 3 days to take notes and do everything. If you feed that to a Gemini too, like it gives me back the report, the key points, like in literally 5 minutes. And then you just go and just check, I don't think this is the key result that we got from this interview. So instead of doing the hard work of listening to everything again and taking notes, I was able to use a tool to generate the notes for me, and I was able to just review and check what was right and what was wrong.
That's a huge boost of productivity right there.
So this was helpful. And some of the things were wrong, but because I was the person making the interviews, I know this is not the outcome we got from this interview. So I was able to correct it. And there is some bias because some less important things are mentioned more. And that's not what you want to put in the report. And some of the key results that are only mentioned once, it was only mentioned once. So it's not a high priority in the summary. So that's what you need to take from it.
Right.
So again, AI is a nice to have tool. It helped me. But if I didn't know how to do my job, it would be a bad job.
Right. But just an interesting tidbit, we do use Phantom. That's his note taker right there. So to record calls and all that, right? So it's interesting that Phantom, he transcribes things in different languages. So he transcribes a call in Portuguese, right? And the transcription in Portuguese is pretty lame. It's not good enough, right? But here's the interesting thing. The transcription is not good, but the summary of the meeting and the main topics of the meeting and even the to-do lists on the meeting are awesome.
Okay.
So it does the summary in English and the to-do list in English, right? And it grabs the right information from the Portuguese that was not able to transcribe correctly.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of crazy, right? But yeah, so AI can be a help in lots of ways, guys. And I think we should that's one thing I've been telling everyone. They should be using it, right? So use experimented, see the value, see the results, see those things that Edson's talking about, right? See the things that actually help you and the things that don't help you so you can understand how to apply it better. All right. So I think we ran over all the questions, right? let's see. Mozilla says I'm very happy because my engineer is because I was able to understand this live. So thanks a lot, Mozilla. That's
my
great,
English,
man.
yeah.
Oh, my English. I'm sorry. Yes, because my English is basic. So it's not too basic, Mozilla. You're understanding it. So for me, what I say is that developers have to have you have to read English very well, right? As well as you read Portuguese, and you have to write English at least as bad as you write Portuguese, right? And that should be enough for you to understand a conversation, because you're going to have the vocabulary, you're going to have, so now speaking, of course, it's important. Communication is so important for all of us, but we have to understand that there's the majority of work that we're going to do in our job, unless you move to another country like Edson did, right? The majority of our work is going to be reading and writing, and not necessarily listening, but not necessarily talking a lot, right? So start from there, because that's going to help you a lot.
Yeah, and talking about English as a second language, Mozilla, my previous manager used to say that actually, because I always felt short of my communication skills, because I will never speak English as fluently as a native person.
Mm-hmm.
And after a couple of years, my previous manager, he told me, actually, that's your superpower. Because a lot of times I've heard that whenever we had a meeting
Mm-hmm.
or a talk, they would choose me over him. They wanted me to do the talk, or they wanted me to do the meeting rather than him. And that's because he was a native English speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, English was my second language. And I always wondered why. And when I asked, that's because they answered me that, well, English is our second language too.
Mm-hmm.
When you speak, we can understand 100%. When he speaks, we can't. So because your English, the way that you you compose your sentences, like the sentences are much simpler.
Mm-hmm.
It's much easier to understand. I don't use slangs whenever I'm talking. So that's why, and you have to remember that most of the world speaks English, but for most of them, English is a second language too.
Right.
So that's how you get something that is a disadvantage for you, and you turn that into your superpower.
That's a great insight. That's a really great insight, because there's I notice, for example, when I'm talking with people, mostly native speakers, but sometimes just people that live here for a long time, and they will reference things. They will reference things in the U.S. They will reference political discussion, for example. Their reference frame is larger than mine, right? So it's harder to actually understand what they're saying, because they're making they're making comparisons and analogies, all that, with things that are not very obvious to me. And so we see this a lot in music, for example, right? So music, there's a lot of things you don't understand. But that's right. I think that, and I have the same experience. Lots of people say that, oh yes, your videos, Bruno, I can watch, no problem, right? And so that's great. So we have a good friend, Serge, right? Serge Rain is a Java developer that was responsible for the income tax application in Brazil for many years. So Serge used to say, now you have to turn a defect into an effect, right? And so you get those things that for you are problematic. It's not very, you don't see the value, or maybe you see it as a defect, and then you see the bright side of it. So you turn this into an effect, into superpower. And I think that's when we're able, that's why I like a lot, just a quick tip here for everyone. That's why I like a lot the tool called Hemingway app, because Hemingway app, he helps you write your text in an easier to read sentence, easier to read language, right? So it's a good way, because we already have vocabulary that's more limited. We don't use fancy words like froth, right? And so, that's one interesting thing. For example, if I ask ChatGPT to write anything for me, it's whatever he writes, I can't use it, right? Because it's not me, right? I even say, hey, ChatGPT, I'm not a native speaker. I don't use words like those that you're talking about, right? But even then, you know, it's never me, right? Because of those kind of things. So use this as an advantage for you instead of looking this in the bad ways.
Yeah, sometimes I use another app called Grammarly
Yeah.
to correct like my texts, and I reject a lot of suggestions.
Mhm.
And it was like, because you're writing, they want you to be more sophisticated,
Mhm.
more, oh, don't use adverbs, like you change the verb. I say, I know what this verb means.
Yeah.
I'm sure that 80% of the people don't know what this verb means.
Right, exactly.
So I'm using adverbs to do that. That's also, but it's poorly written. No, it's easy to understand what is written.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, guys. So, you know, Edson's here very, very nicely. I mean, I'm not hosting Edson. Edson is hosting me, right? So Edson is actually very nice to be here and hosting me and Vinicius in his house. And I'm very grateful, man, for you to do that. You know, and not only him and his wife, actually, we have here right in front of us this big bowl of sweet peanuts, right? That she makes it here, right? Some kind of, you know, have to find the recipe. And so we're eating all kinds of Brazilian food here in the US. So it's so nice to be received like as family here. So thanks a lot, Edson. And so and one thing that I would like to pass to all of you guys, that's what matters in terms of our careers, right? It's those relationships that we're building. You know, is the friendship, is the long-term relationship. Even when we're far away, we're still talking with each other. We're still thinking about each other. We're still thinking about our families, all that. So in your career, building those long-term relationships, that's the things that are going to make a big difference for you. That's the things that are going to get you amazing jobs. And that's the things that are going to get you to be the person that people remember and say, oh, I wish he was here. So Edson, thank you so much, man. I always wish that you were here with us.
Oh, I feel the same.
Thanks a lot.
I always wish you were here, but I'm super glad that you're actually here.
Right. Okay. So guys, it was great conversation here. Thanks everyone for the questions. Thanks everyone for being here. And you know, this is just the second city that I'm doing on the tour around the US. I'm gonna be in DevNexus next week in Atlanta, and then I go on to visit lots of user groups. So as soon as I can get other people to come here talk to you, I'll do this. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.